Steve and Donna have both been around the horn a couple times. They've got a lot of experience between them. Donna has been a friend of mine for a couple of years now, and she was with I believe it was U-Haul for many years, which I think most of us can appreciate the fact is a pretty challenging niche. Uh, she had some interesting situations to handle there. Steve is so good at what he does that the local colleges have hired him to give classes on it, and I can't think of anybody more qualified. So, and
Thanks, Doc.
short of dirty jokes, I've run out of things to talk about. So.
No worries. Donna, were you going to go first, or did you want me to?
We're going to go ahead and run Steve first because his screen share is working.
Rock and roll. Let's do it. Am I live? Can everybody hear me okay?
Sure
Is
do.
this thing on? All right.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Should we go?
Go.
You're good.
All right, let's do it. Hey, everybody. My name's Steve Wiideman, and my fabulous rock star what's the word we want to use? Co-presenter is Donna. Donna is going to blow you away with some amazing ideas for how to optimize your Google My Business profile so that when you want to appear in the map packs, you can appear more prominently, solve problems that you probably didn't know were happening, look at some things that you probably haven't looked at before. You're going to love it. It's an amazing presentation. I'm going to talk about local SEO a little bit more holistically. I'm going to get into some of the data and findings from a recent study we did. And my hope is to really make sure that you've got everything you need. If you're looking at doing a multi-location strategy, whether you're U-Haul, like Donna had to do for so many years, or whether you're like one of our clients we've had to work with, such as Public Storage and Skechers and Meineke Car Care Centers, and more recently, Applebee's and IHOP. A lot of those learnings went into this presentation, and I hope you'll get some actionables and be able to get some takeaways out of it. So let's get the show rolling. Here's me back in the early days of SEO. I was labeled SEO Steve because that was a handle I used, and next thing you know, I show up to my clients' offices and like, oh, SEO Steve is here. As Doc mentioned, I'm also an adjunct professor. I teach a class at Cal State Fullerton, UC San Diego, and I'm also teaching at a community college here. Just a free time thing I do for fun. I only have to put in a couple hours a week to help. They're usually 1 to 3 unit courses, so it's not like I'm doing it full time yet. I also helped write a textbook for Student. Student is an online software system that's for courseware that colleges and universities will use as a place to get supplemental content from Canvas. So you start a new class, you're a teacher, they say you're teaching SEO, you've got this empty canvas and they say you've got 2 weeks go. You're like, what do I do? You got to Student, you sign up for their courseware program, you've got a textbook to use, you've got quizzes, you've got all that great stuff. So I played a role in helping create the first textbook for SEO on the Student platform. Kind of neat. I'm also an algorithm junkie like Casey, who you just talked to, and an avid researcher on all things SEO. And one of those you're going to hear about today. Team leader for a small group of folks here in La Mirada, and the lead brand consultant for Applebee's and IHOP under Dine. So that's me. So our goals, our objectives today, we want to be able to scale our data accuracy signals. We want to scale our on-page ranking signals. We want to look at our off-page signals as well for local, and look a little bit at search behaviors. I'm mainly going to be focusing a lot of my energy on number 2 here on page ranking signals, because I want to share some of that data from the study. I think you'll find that the most interesting. So data signals, you've got to have your business data correct and accurate. Nothing frustrates a visitor more than looking at a listing in Yelp or some local directory and the data being wrong. There are lots of places you can go as a multi-location or franchise brand to manage that. Here's just a few of them. There's hundreds of these companies. So take a look at all of them. I'm gonna give you some questions that you should be asking them. It was in a thread recently, I think in one of our social groups on Facebook. Are these services worth it? Is it worth the $100,000 to $200,000 a year that it's going to cost you if you're trying to manage 2,000 locations? And I can tell you they really are worth it. They're worth it because the cost savings, you're going to pay significantly more if you're submitting manually to a lot of the different destinations that they get bulk pricing with, and just trying to keep up with the management of it, it's exhausting. So we've seen and done some tests ourselves, looking at some of those multi-location brands we've worked with, switching vendors from one that really wasn't doing a good job to one that just does a fantastic job. And we found that there was a correlation. There was an actual increase in our rankings when our business data information was accurate. Its data is sort of like the nuclear hub of a cell, right? It's the center point, the most accurate and most important signal that Google's going to use, and Bing and other navigation engines, to make sure that you're a real business, not just trying to game the search results. So the more accurate those data points were, not just the directories, but also the aggregators, but also the directories, the higher our rankings improved, especially when you're using all of them, like the Data Axle, Newstar, and Foursquare. So good chance that just from our own research that there's a correlation there. So what's the alternative? Well, you don't get the bulk price savings if you're not using one. If you've got your team is manually submitting to Foursquare, manually submitting and figuring out the process, to get all that stuff submitted. There's no single source of truth, right? Unless you've got some crazy awesome Salesforce system that is able to spit out data with all the right headers to the right places. You're manually managing your Data Axle and Newstar and Foursquare, your Apple, your Nokia here, your TomTom, your MapQuest. You're manually running your Google, Bing, and Yahoo, as well as Yelp, TripAdvisor, Nextdoor. So if you like working 18 to 20-hour days and having several people getting headaches doing all this stuff manually, by all means, do it yourself. Don't use a solution like a data management platform. You'll hear that term quite a bit. You don't have any auto field conversion for these spreadsheets they're going to give you. So they're going to say, use this spreadsheet to submit to Data Axle. And you're like, okay, well, mine's in Salesforce and they're completely different columns. You've got to go and migrate all that every single time you want to update listings. There's no aggregate analytics to see how accurate your information is across all of those different databases and search engines and navigation engines. So doing it manually is almost impossible to measure. And of course, the Google Maps API fees can be very, very, very expensive if you've got thousands of locations. The cool thing, just like with the data management, those data management platforms have some pretty good pricing with Google in many cases based on how many calls that they're doing to the API. So my opinion, and being in local for nearly 20 years, use a data management platform if you can afford it. So questions to ask, things such as, what's my actual savings per month? Can I quantify it and show the brand that it's going to cost them less to use a platform than hiring a bunch of people and doing it manually? How do they compare to competitors? What are my cost savings on the Maps API? Do you have specific directories in my niche? I'm in food and dining. Do you have a list of dining websites like OpenTable and similar, that Restaurant G, that I should be in, that you already have relationships with so I don't have to manage those? Do you submit to search and navigation engines and local social, or do you just do the aggregators and assume that those different destinations are going to grab their data from the aggregators? Do you offer best-in-class location pages? If you can manage them yourself, fantastic. I know we did that with Meineke and it worked, but it was a lot of effort with developers and everything to get that going. It was a pretty expensive project. So in many cases, if you've got a lot of locations and you're growing and you don't want to have to manage the innovation that goes behind creating amazing content and have developers to manage it, you could leverage the local pages of these different data management platforms. And then what makes them better? Show me how your local landing pages are better. Hey, you're working with I don't know, Home Depot. I'm Lowe's. Show me how you're helping Home Depot and how their pages outrank another hardware store. Really important questions to ask them. So on-page signals. This is the part I'm really excited about. I'm historically an on-page SEO nerd. We talked about data. Hopefully you're getting your action items ready to manage and track your data. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about on-page. So the study that we did, we looked at somewhere close to 300 local pages, 101 specifically in food and dining, all the big brands, Applebee's, IHOPs, the Olive Gardens, Starbucks, McDonald's. We looked at them all. We looked at every single local page, and every time we found something new, we added a column for it. We looked at the website attributes on the actual property pages. We looked at the city pages if they had more than one location in a city. And then, of course, we looked at the site level itself. Are they doing automatically detecting your location type technology, right? From that, you can see our biggest win list here. If you get nothing else, screenshot this, right? The number one thing that stood out was the hyper-local content. Those pages that were able to create unique content on their local pages, which I know if you've got 3,000 locations, it's hard to do. But if you can do it, that was the one differentiator between the higher ranking pages and those that weren't ranking as high. Next were location photos, which technically could fall under hyperlocal content, but this was a specific attribute. Boss says, what's the value in putting location photos on instead of putting a generic location photo that should represent every location? Well, if we do specific location photos, we've got an 84% competitive advantage, right? That's the message. That's the arsenal you need to fight back when the naysayers say, why are we doing this? Embedding a Google map, 360 tours from Google. You can do that pretty affordably, as low as $100 to $200, depending on where you are. Location-specific social profiles. Users apparently want to interact with you on your Facebook page for that location. They want to interact with you, if you've got an Instagram page for it, etc. A directions button. That's sort of self-explanatory. No one wants to go to a local page and not have a link to directions. Native reviews. Only a 4% advantage here, but there weren't very many websites that had it. And then location hours as well, having that prominent and making sure the users know that you're open right now or not. So those are the primary things that we saw of higher ranking pages. So we looked at this in part of our research. The big thing that I thought was going to be a differentiator was native reviews, but only 4% of the sites we looked at actually had first-party native reviews where you could click a button that says leave a review. Only 4% had them. So you want a competitive advantage, put some first-party native review functionality on your local pages. Again, only 4% are doing this. The advantage, you've got keyword-rich content. You could even influence it when they go to submit their review. You can say, here's some things you could share. Share whether you use takeout or delivery. Share whether you had something off our specials menu. See me injecting in some keywords there. Share the type of food you ate or the entree that you had and what you liked or disliked about it. That way you're sort of giving them some tips that will automatically result in you getting some keyword-rich reviews on your page. Next, 61% of local pages have some kind of structured data. Casey talked about this quite a bit. Really important. If you're a restaurant, have on your local pages some restaurant schema. We don't know how they're going to use this in the future, what cards they're going to create or what features they're going to create, but we know that they want this. If they didn't, they wouldn't have tools and advice and a whole page on the different types of rich results you can provide. We know it's important. Markup as much as you can. So continuing on the structured markup, this was really interesting too. We also noticed higher click-through rates when we had more results to show someone under a listing. Now, this isn't at the hyperlocal level. This particular one is showing a question answer or frequently asked questions underneath a main page, but now we're rolling this out across all local pages as well. The advantage of doing it at the local page level down here was with an event, we could actually put in an event markup that would show up beneath the listing to make our listing stand out. Now, instead of just title, URL, and description, we actually have a whole row and a direct link to the specific event that's happening. Event markup's amazing, and I'll tell you some other tips about it here in a minute. 16% have the old Google map and link to directions. So you have both of those things and you've got a 32% advantage. All I need is a Google map and link to directions, and I've got a 32% advantage over my competitor who doesn't. Custom location images, I'm not going to beat a dead horse on here, but there's the advantage. And then supportive content. This is also something I'm not seeing a lot of businesses doing. We started it with Meineke back when Meineke got recognized in the Not Low top 30 is one of the top in local marketing. And this was in part because we created a subpage for everything that we know their customers are looking for at the local level. They were looking for auto repair in their city. And if Meineke didn't have a specific page dedicated to that, those other local competitors would have trumped them. So we created supportive pages for Applebee's and IHOP. They each have a delivery and a takeout, and now even a jobs page, like restaurant jobs near me. I'm sure there's a pretty high demand coming up for that this month. And by the way, no one was doing this in our research. And food and dining, there wasn't a single one that was doing the subpages. So if you're in food and dining, come get me, right? Some coupons as well. No one was using coupons. We did this test with Skechers and it worked exactly like we hoped it would. Here's an example of what it would look like. But in our study, we did not find anyone using coupons or offers. Barcode them, get attribution, and track a keyword to a sale offline. Just do some simple barcoding. Conversion optimization. I couldn't believe how many of these websites didn't have a start order button sticky in the footer. We added the start order button when the pandemic started to really affect online orders. And we said, hey, let's put a start order button. So it's there, it's prominent. Nobody cares about directions. So we moved directions over. We put a start order button and hey, look at that, $2 million weekend a few days later. Pretty exciting. And all we had to do was just put one silly little button close to the user's thumb. I'm not going to read all these to you, but these are the specific focal points we identified in the study. You'll have this deck. Feel free to explore it. Here's the end results of that study, our idea of a perfect local page, right? You've got our store images here. You've got our hours, our current hour. I put the coupon one in here. I thought that was really important because I don't see a lot of brands doing that, especially for attribution. Your directions link, business name. We also have a save info to phone, which gives us a little H card that we could use and some structured data. We've got our Google map. We've got our video. Nobody had a video, by the way, except for Denny's. I think Denny's had one. And then we've got our native review intake here. We've got more information about the business and the menu. And then down here, we've got maybe our 360 tour, maybe a custom image about that location, and then some hyperlocal content. How do you scale the hyperlocal content? You send out a survey to every location asking specific questions that can go straight into a database and be used in dynamic content as a starting point. And then you go back to them and say, hey, help us write some content for your page. And then one by one, you load those things up, put them in the database, and then over the next year or two, every location will have its own hyperlocal content. I know we're getting short on time. I have two more areas I want to talk about. On off-page, some ways to scale. How do you do this? You encourage every location to start doing more local events, and doing some local events where maybe you're doing a blood drive, a CPR class, whatever creative, fun ideas that you can come up with. The cool thing is you can go to your neighboring businesses and get them involved. They're not going to want to put money into it. They're not going to want to contribute time. But when you've asked them both those things and then say, hey, well, can you at least mention it on our website? They'll feel bad that they didn't want to contribute time or money, and they'll give you that citation that you want and hopefully a link back. And all of your neighboring businesses that Google already knows are in that area are going to give you a nice hyperlocal citation. Get the community involved. Go to your civic centers and your community centers, your .govs locally, and get them involved in what's going on. Have them help promote it. Some fantastic links from highly trustworthy websites. It's excellent for PR. You can see Daryl Isaacs over here did a CPR class. Got on the news, for this really cool things that he was doing to try to help the community. This is pre-pandemic. No one wants a CPR class right now, of course. Earn links and citations from it. And then those rich results by putting the event markup on there, like I showed you with IHOP. Here's an example of one that was a helmet giveaway for children and safety. He had a whole category on bike safety and injuries related to bike accidents. And they handed out helmets to everybody, and it worked. We got the community involved, and we got on the radio and TV, and it was a cool little fun thing to help the community that got us some fantastic links from news sites and government sites, you name it. Applebee's uses their Veterans Day. You can see Veterans Day here and some of the links they've earned. Fox News, military.com, some pretty awesome websites that have linked to this kind of supportive content, and they can scale it. They've got multiple locations, so they can share this, across each location. IHOP has a National Pancake Day every year that they give away free things and try to give back to the community. And from that, you can see some amazing links that came in as well. LA Times, Business Insider, SF Gates, CBS Local, Lifehacker, right? Some cool things there. Featured answers are also something you could be going after off page by simply having some really good, helpful how to, where to, why to type content. You can see how Public Storage did this. snippet comes and goes. I think they moved the page quite a bit over the years, so I don't know how relevant this particular example is, but by coming up with this type of content and then syndicating it to all the right places, right? We're going to syndicate it to partners and influencers and do some media sharing of that content to our Facebook, Pinterest, Flickr, wherever. Share that short answer wherever you can, adjacent to the media that corresponds to it. Google's going to crawl the web, see that short summary everywhere, and eventually give you that featured answer if it's a helpful featured answer. Oh, Google Alerts are a great way to do that, by the way. If you're doing you want a featured answer for how to change your engine oil, for example, pick up a Google Alert and drop your answer in every single time it comes up. Scaling the search behavior signal. So we talked about, really quickly, we talked about data management. We talked about our local page optimization. We talked about quite a bit about off-page signals with regards to citation building and earning links at the local level and getting some featured answers. Now, the last part is how users interact with your listing. To me, this relates a lot to reviews and ratings. One of the things that we'll talk through beyond that is also some of the context that appears. So when somebody does see your result, do they want to click on you? Do you have 1 star, right? Do you have something that's going to compel them to want to click you versus the results? So here's some examples on how to boost CTR on local pages. Unique titles. Notice in some of these titles that there are reasons to want to click. I know someone searching for title tag principles doesn't care about title tag principles. They're trying to improve their CTR and their SEO. So understanding what they really need, right? Not necessarily what they want, but what they need will get them to click. Comfortable and casual men's shoes. It wasn't just men's shoes, Skechers. It's comfortable and casual. They're calling out the reasons that somebody would want to click. And then you've got the discount, the $5 menu by IHOP, limited time, gives you a little bit of scarcity mentality. So it's really putting time and energy into those titles and descriptions. Make it stand out. Here's some other things that you can test with regards to making your users want to click your listing more than competing listings. Local business first, of course, because we're talking about scaling local business pages. FAQ page, rating, event, video object, image object. These are these great thumbnails next to your mobile results. Emojis, again, be careful with these. They don't always work, but sometimes they do. So, do some tests. If you're a really professional lawyer, emojis aren't going to be appropriate for you. But if you're a toy store or a fun small brand locally, and maybe you're a fun creative coffee shop, why can't you put a little coffee emoji in that listing? Make it stand out, make it clickable. Price transparency. We learned this, working with brands like Jacuzzi. When you go to their pages, it's not easy to see how much they charge. But if you put that price right in context, we did this with Skechers back in the day, by product name, starting at and as low as whatever the lowest product in the category is. Our CTR went through the roof because our price point was right there in the title tag. And then here you can see what it looks like with that FAQ page markup on here. By the way, we did an actual interview with the senior search analyst at TripAdvisor, and they said we're adding FAQ page to everything. There's the video if you want to watch it where they say it, but think about it. It works. It makes your listing stand out. It can be pretty rad. So here's your deliverables, as we mentioned earlier, but now they're actionable. Choose the right data management platform. Schedule your tests for on-page SEO. Schedule your events and your summary syndication, to really help with what you're doing off the website. And then schedule some of that search behavior testing, title changes, schema, markup changes, review rating markup, whatever you want to put in queue to test. Get those things on the calendar and hold your team accountable every month. Guys, how are we doing? How are we doing with hitting our KPI goal for the year with this particular thing? How are we doing with improving our click-through rates? How are we doing with, hold them accountable every month to those specific KPIs, and every month you're going to see improvement. And that's my deck. I'm going to stop sharing. You can find me anywhere at SEO Steve, and hand the baton over to the amazing Donna Donahue.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Steve.
Great stuff. That was
And we're
interesting.
going to
Now, because this has taken both my screens. That was an amazing presentation, Steve. Can everybody hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Great, Donna.
Okay, awesome. So, Steve, as Steve said, he and I have worked together quite a lot on some local SEO, and I took a particular interest in GMB. It's my favorite thing in the whole world to do. So without further ado, we will move on. A little bit about me. I'm of Irish descent. I've been married for 22 years. Friday is my 22nd wedding anniversary. Together, we raised 6 kids, his, mine, and ours. And you can see them here in this picture of a celebration that they threw for us for our 20th wedding anniversary, and that was really a load of fun. We have 2 cats, Logan and Ninja. Ninja weighs about 23 pounds. She's the black one down at the bottom. And then the ragdoll is about 12 pounds. The black one's mine. The ragdoll's my husband's. As I said, I became very interested in Google My Business when I was at U-Haul International, because I noticed that things weren't quite right. They stood a risk of getting some of their locations suspended, and I kind of threw a big stink about that, and nobody listened to me, and they got 1,500 locations suspended recently. So anyway, now I'm living the GMB wild side of life with Rocket Media. It's a wonderful, wonderful place. So let's examine, why is GMB important? I mean, it's like, it's just a knowledge panel. Well, here's the thing about this knowledge panel is that Google has basically told us that it's our new homepage, whether we like it or not. So you've got like one opportunity to make a first impression now. And if you're not ahead of your competitors, well, then you're kind of relying on just the organic results, and maybe you don't come up there either. So this is all part of the Google's grand plan to keep us in their properties. Someone needs your phone number, it's right there. They want to order food, it's right there. Book an appointment for hair. We specialize in the HVAC, home services, plumbing, electrical, and some of our GMB profiles are optimized so people can schedule appointments right within their Google My Business profile. You can also see your product offerings. And also, Google really likes fresh images. So the Google Image Recognition API may recognize images and display them for your longer tail queries. Best pepperoni pizza near me. So how do we show up? Well, we need to look at Google's local pack and GMB SEO algorithm. The first thing it's going to look at is proximity. How close are you to where you're searching? And that's usually what's going to come up. And then the next question that Google is asking in the algorithm is, does this business sell or have the attributes that I'm looking for? And then if you are close to the search and they do have the attributes or they're selling what you're looking for, well, then now what comes out is prominence. How popular are you? How authoritative is your business? So I went ahead and I did some searches because I wanted to reverse engineer the perfect Google My Business profile. And so I started off with some broad matches: Kia dealership near me, Kia dealership, and Kia. What was interesting about this to me is that in these broad match terms, the maps came up, but I could not get it to produce a Google My Business profile. So all 3 of these are examples that show up in the maps. And so the algorithm is definitely at play here for the near me search. But you pretty much all 3 of these Kia dealerships all have like a level playing field. So how do you really kind of know which one to pick? Most people would pick the first one because it's in the first it's the first result. However, I know a little bit about Courtesy Kia, and I wouldn't click that. Tempe Kia happens to be my favorite Kia dealership. So I have here the keywords matter. And what I mean when people are searching is the Kia in the business name. So if it was just Courtesy Auto Dealer or Courtesy, well, it also has a Chevrolet dealership right next to it, right? So if I were to just type in Courtesy, I might get the Chevrolet dealership. So my question then going on here is, I'm looking for the best Kia dealership near me. Now, is Courtesy Kia the best dealership near me? Google thinks it is. So let's go ahead and examine why. So let's start with relevance. I apologize that that got cut off. We're going to go ahead and start with relevance. And I'm looking for the best Kia dealership near me. Well, all three of these do sell Kias, so it's pretty relevant. Proximity definitely matters. The red star is where I was searching from. And as you can see, Courtesy Kia is definitely closest to me. Tempe Kia is a little bit further away. That would explain why it's in the third place position on the map. And prominence matters. So best Kia dealership near me. So even though Courtesy Kia came up in the first place in the map, it is not quite as prominent as Tempe Kia because of the backlinks. So Courtesy Kia has 689 relevant local backlinks, but what was really impressive about them is they were super hyper local backlinks. They didn't have any spam. So whoever's working on their stuff is doing a good job of keeping it pretty clean. Now, Tempe Kia has 1 million backlinks, some local and some are spammy, but like they kind of win for having sheer volume, but they really should try to get rid of those spammy links because more doesn't always equal better. That's for sure. So Courtesy doesn't win for the popularity contest, and I'll show you why. Because just by changing my query, I've now triggered a different result. Because I don't care about it being near me. I just want to know what is the best Kia dealership, and it's the best of the entire state. So prominence and relevance are overriding the proximity in the algorithm here because now Tempe Kia has risen to the top. And but it still did not trigger the knowledge panel. So what I've decided to do is take the one that came up and first in the map when I was doing the near me search, and then I took the top in the state result. And I'm going to compare them side by side. So I'm going to start with going from the top to the bottom, and whether it's organic or local or other SEO efforts, Google really loves fresh content. We know this to be a fact. And for GMB, not only the number of images you have on your site or on your knowledge panel, the velocity of images can be a game changer. So the winner in this category is Courtesy. They have a lot of photos, and there's at least 10 that I could count back to as far back as I want to say January. They've got about 10 new photos a month. Tempe Kia does not really. They have this one recent picture in August, and then the next most recent ones were back in May. And so they're kind of sitting on their laurels a little bit and not capitalizing on this really great area of the knowledge panel. And also, what a way to showcase your cars, right? So Tempe Kia gets a thumbs down. Winner is Courtesy. So now here's the information block. This is where most people are going to get their information about your business without looking at anything else. If they just get what they want right away, they probably aren't going to be clicking around in other places of your GMB profile. They're probably just going to click right here and hopefully click through to your website. But Tempe Kia wins this one because you can schedule an appointment right in the information block. You can see the business hours as well as the service department when the service department closes. Courtesy has kind of dropped the ball on this. And also what Tempe Kia is doing on all of their links throughout their entire site, they're making use of the campaign, the UTM, and Courtesy is bare bones and it does not use the UTM parameters. So I don't know how they're able to tell where their traffic is coming from, but I would suggest if I were their SEO, I would get on them for that. So the reviews are really interesting here. The winner for for the reviews is Tempe Kia. They win this round simply because of the sheer volume of reviews. The difference between the 4.8 and the 4.6 star review probably boils down to that volume. Both dealerships do a really great job of answering these reviews. As I was doing my research, over here at, I want to say, Tempe Kia, this Sherry Mongrain who left a review, it hadn't been answered. I refreshed the page and it was right there. So I thought that was pretty impressive. But keep in mind, just like photos, velocity of reviews matter. Google's going to look at that. I don't recommend that anybody go out and tell all of their friends to go and leave a review on this for this business, because I think Google will be a little suspicious if we all of a sudden saw a huge spike in reviews when there hadn't been any. So we want to encourage our customers, and there are lots of things that you can do. I think Steve mentioned about putting the native reviews and make it easy as possible. When you send out an email or whatever, make it easy and guide them to leave a review wherever you would like them to leave it, but make it easy on your customers. And wait a minute, I want to go back. Sorry. The winner there is Tempe Kia. Okay. So interestingly enough, when I'm doing this research, I saw something on Courtesy's site that I didn't see on Tempe Kia. And it's this cars for sale. And it has their entire inventory at Courtesy Chevrolet, Courtesy Kia. And it's not really a fail on Tempe Kia's part, because this is a beta program that started in January. It's a paid product, and you can only get it if you go through an approved digital marketing agency. And I believe if you're in the auto industry, I believe that you can apply for this to be able to offer this to your clients. I've got no doubt that Google will roll this out in the future, because it's further going to keep everybody on the Google property. So the Q&A section, this is a drum that I'm always banging. This is the biggest missed opportunity by almost every local business that I can see. I don't know if it's a lack of knowledge by the business owners, or they just don't know, or they just don't really care, but this is a really big missed opportunity. Tempe Kia is the winner on this one, but barely, because they're not taking advantage of it. They're letting their local guides answer the questions for them, except in one case, and that was like 3 years ago. So one of the strategies that I like to deploy on our Google My Business profiles is I'll take advantage of the people also ask section. I'll put in my basic query of something that I'm looking for, and then I scroll down and I look at those people also ask questions. I ask them, and then I also answer them. So I don't know that people know that you can do that, but I have noticed a huge increase in traffic by doing this. And so we've made it kind of a habit around here that as we're doing our listings management, we try to come up with 2 new questions a month. Maybe one of these days we'll run out. The other thing is you want to take those questions that are out there, and you want them to rise to the top. Because if somebody's asking a garbage question and you want to kind of bury it, best thing you can do is thumbs up the questions and the answers. And then here's where you can ask everybody else to help you. Just go to your team of people and say, hey, I need everybody to go out there and thumbs up those question and answers, so we could the really good questions that we want, like, to the top. And this is one of my favorite things to do. I wouldn't recommend. So the local guides over here have answered for Tempe Kia, but it could have been one of their competitors just as well. So the question that I asked is because Tempe Kia has a really great product feed section, but is it better than the cars for sale? I really don't know. I couldn't find any supportive documentation to imply if they could have both. My assumption is that they can't once they have the for sale. And if one of you out there knows the answer, if you could pass it my way, that'd be great. Tempe Kia could do a little bit better of a job of their product feed, because they're missing the ball by not adding any description or anything that makes these products searchable. So if they were to put some content in there and like sell the car, I think that this would be a better product feed. They've not really given their users a reason to click through. It's a picture of a car. I can find that in Google Images. So posts. This is also a very neglected attribute of the Google My Business profile that a lot of businesses do not take advantage of. Fortunately, both of these businesses do. They did a really good job of having these regularly, like every couple of weeks, they're putting out a new post, and it's really free advertising. It's a free ad. It's not going to show up as often as a paid ad might, but it's still free. It's still making an offer, and I would imagine that these are encouraging their customers to click through. I think I would if I saw a complimentary battery test, because here in Arizona, our batteries are good for maybe a year or two in the heat. So the description, Google allows 750 characters, so you need to use them. Google says that the business description isn't a ranking factor, so don't go around stuffing a bunch of keywords. Just really use this opportunity to kind of sell your business once again and tell your potential customers why they need to come to Tempe Kia or Courtesy Kia or over, anywhere else. You can talk, they both did a really good job here, but Tempe wins because they took better advantage of the space allowed to them. Personal opinion, but this is a really great opportunity to sell your business. So who do you think wins? The average person might look at both Courtesy and Tempe Kia and think, well, they look pretty much the same, right? Here they are side by side. However, they're not really the same. So the conclusion is that the winner is Tempe Kia. Tempe Kia across the board does a better job of optimizing everything available to them in their GMB profile. Tempe Kia has better prominence with their number of backlinks and review signals. Courtesy Kia does a good job as well, but they fall just short of the mark to capture the search query best Kia dealership in Arizona. I think that if they worked on getting more reviews and they worked on getting some more hyperlocal backlinks and get the volume of them up, they would probably come out as the best Kia dealership in Arizona, because then proximity would kick in. So it would meet all three of the local algorithm. So, and that's it for me. Thanks for sharing this time with me.
Good stuff, Donna. Thank you.
Great job, Donna. I think we should open up for questions if time permits, Doc. What do you think?
We've got a question. Bill Allen asks, do you recommend GMB listings for multi-location businesses have URLs pointing to a location-specific page or to a main site homepage?
Obviously.
What are the benefits or problems with one versus the other?
Donna, I'll let you take this one. I think we both have a line on this one.
If it's a local business, especially for multi-location businesses, you should always direct that website to the local page.
Yeah, we even like to throw some UTM codes on it to segment, like you'd mentioned earlier, Donna. So that way we can actually look at the analytics, and under organic as a medium, as long as we use that UTM organic, then we have a way for us to drill down and separate organic maps and organic, regular organic. So and then of course you have the opportunity to put all the same things that you're telling Google in your Google My Business profile on the local page itself. So it's almost like you're saying, hey, this page is about everything I'm about to tell you. And then they crawl to that page, they see that, and boom, hopefully it plays a role, right? That's, what was it? Part 2 of the 4 pillars we were talking about is on-page SEO. So yeah, absolutely, 100%. Point to your local page, throw some UTM codes on there for tracking purposes, and you're rocking.
I'm always amazed at the number of businesses that I see, because now that I'm in SEO, I always hover over links everywhere and see if there are any UTM parameters. And I'm just, do they not know? I would assume they're either doing it themselves or they're not, or they just don't know.
Or their SEO guy knows everything.
Got, got another question here. Frank Watson asked,
The
when you're
troublemaker.
using UTM, do you use the do you shorten your URL with the UTM, or does it matter?
I don't. I keep it static, and I only use it for Google My Business, but I generally just keep it the regular URL.
Yeah, I don't shorten it either. I just use the source, the medium, and the campaign. With
I'll shorten it like crazy for social sharing and for other things that I'll use that URL for. But for tracking traffic from Google Maps specifically, I just keep it the regular link.
yeah, do you put? Yeah, obviously this is a stupid question. You put different UTMs on different sections of the GMB profile. Yeah,
Right.
post.
Yeah. If you're like your appointment URL will be different, so it's
Mhm,
content type will be contact URL or whatever. Yeah.
right.
Yep. Love you, Frank.
Thanks, Frank. Frank is a good friend of ours too.
Yeah. Who is this Frank character anyway?
The troublemaker.
There you go.
Frank's the
Hey.
reason I know all you guys.
Because we're troublemakers?
Well, I mean, I wasn't going to say anything. No, but because Frank introduced me to the DMO, Digital Marketing Organization, and that's where I met all of you wonderful folks.
Very cool.
Any other questions?
Nope,
This has been
that's what
fun.
we got.
Well, thanks
To
everybody.
both of you,
This
we
has been
really
good.
appreciate your time, your effort. I know that it was, this isn't something you whipped together in 3 minutes, so we very much appreciate it. Some good stuff there to share with everybody.
Awesome.
Well,
And knock
thanks
them
for
dead, Bill. I know you're going to do amazing.
having us. Bye.
Actually, I'm supposed to give everybody a 5-minute break in case somebody needs to make a potty call.